Hello and welcome to Journeys in Faith with Anne DeSantis here on this Friday evening. I have a wonderful guest for you. I have author Tammy Fernando. She is the author of the new book called The Road to Joseph. And this is the book. It's going to look backwards here because of um, the screen that we're working with here. But I welcome you, Tammy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me, Anne.
Yes, it's
Looking
beautiful.
forward to chatting.
Oh, I am too. And I would love to read your beautiful bio to our audience. So,
Yeah.
Tammy has been drawn to writing Christian fiction books for young children since 2015 when she felt called to do this by God. Tammy is excited and honored that the Lord has asked her to embark on a career in writing and to have the opportunity to guide children to the heart of God. She does this by emphasizing the need for personal relationship with our Creator God and by showing little ones that the Holy Trinity are continually present and always helping us. These are two things she feels the Lord wants her to convey to children. Now, the illustrator of this book is Kimberly Merritt, which I'm sure you'll tell us a little bit about her too, Tammy. So, we're going to start out with your faith journey. We would love to hear about how you came to be an author and just a little bit about how you developed your relationship with Christ.
Okay, so where do I start? I'll start from when I was a little girl, I suppose. In our family, where traditional Catholics and conservative Catholics, not traditional, sorry, that's the wrong term, conservative Catholics. And we went to a mass every Sunday. We went to confession, that's what you call it, maybe once every 3 months, something like that. But it was, so there was some sort of a depth because we went regularly to the sacraments, but I didn't feel really as a family we had enough depth of relationship with Jesus. And I felt like I was had like a child's 5-year-old or 8-year-old faith right up until I was 27, I think. Um, and what happened then was, I think my mum had gone to Medjugorje and she'd come back, and I had a little book all about praying. And I tried to pray, and it said in this book, when you pray, you should feel something. And so I got down on my knees and I prayed and I felt nothing. And I just had enough for some reason at that point in my life. So what I did was, and it sounds awful, but I took my Sacred Heart picture of Jesus that I had, my paper one, and I tore it into four. I said, "You're just a paper god," and I put it into my bottom drawer and I shut the drawer, because that's my conclusion that I came with, because nothing was really happening. And then we ended up going to a prayer meeting. It was a charismatic prayer meeting, a Catholic charismatic prayer meeting. I didn't know it was, but when I heard everybody praying in tongues, and I realised what I'd walked in on, and so it was just, I just had an experience of God while I was there. I felt the Holy Spirit cause tingling in my hands. I felt my heart expand to a much bigger volume than it is really, and I could sort of see it in my spirit, and it was sort of bluish in colour with a bit of red, I think, and it was just made this massive sound. It was going that's my imitation of it, sorry. But that's what it was doing, and I was saying, whoa, God, I don't know if I can carry on with much more of this. Can you slow it down a bit? And it did start to slow down. But what I'm saying is basically I'd gone from feeling that God was a paper God who did nothing to a massively powerful God that was like, affecting my body and all its senses. And then somebody prayed over me, a little lady called Hannah, I remember. And as she prayed over me, I just knew I was going to go out in the spirit. Oh, that's the term that some charismatics use, or they might say slain in the spirit. And I remember as she prayed over me, as she had her hand on my head, I felt something in my head go from this to that. I thought, I'm going to go over, aren't I? I just knew I would be. And I did with quite heavily, but I didn't hurt myself. Um, and I thought, well, I'm still conscious. I can still hear everybody. So maybe I should just get up. So I tried to get up, and this lady said to me, just stay there, receive, or something like that. So I stayed there for a while, just in, I think it was some sort of peace. And then I got up and joined the rest of the prayer meeting. But I haven't been the same since, really, since then. And since realizing through just being around charismatic people that God speaks to us. I'd never even realized that before. I was just on a completely different journey of faith. I just felt like it had just started. And before, it was, my faith was just like black and white and still, really. But now I felt it was in color. It was vibrant some days, and it was moving. So my faith really, it just shot up then, like a rocket, really. And ever since then, I've been always asking God, which job do you want me to go into? What do you want me to do next? And ever since then, I've been praying about every career move that I've done. And that's why at that time I ended up being a nurse, because that's what I felt God was saying to me. Even though I didn't want to be it for many years, I suddenly had this sense that that's what he wanted me to do. So I thought, well, it's going to be all right, because that's what he's asked me to do. And then I went on to do midwifery, nursery. I learned a bit about the catechesis of the Good Shepherd, and I wanted to take that into schools, because that's a very special catechesis that uses models of various parables and things, and it helps little children just to play with them, and the hope is, and eventually children do just seem to fall in love with Jesus. And I thought, wouldn't that be great if I could take that into schools? So I started. I started getting myself ready for all of that. I did a master's degree, so that people would take me seriously. And then I applied to 200 and I think it was 10 schools or something in and around London, and nobody was interested. So after that, and so the door was completely shut, and I was really, I was perturbed, and I just thought, well, God asked me to do this, didn't he? How come it's all just, gone flat? I didn't get it. So, but because the catechesis of the Good Shepherd is to do with Montessori nursery teaching, I decided to become just a Montessori nursery teacher instead. So I started doing that. And then in the first school that I joined, it was not a good experience, and I was asked to leave for no good reason. And then, but the day before I was asked to leave, that's when God called me to write my books. So even while this man was slating me and saying to me, you're too kind, you're too spiritual, you're too soulful, and you stick out. These were his reasons why I couldn't stay. I thought in my head, well, I know someone who thinks I can do something, and that's Jesus. Because the day before all this had happened, I felt God ask me to write a story. So I just sat down and I wrote what was in my heart. And what was in my heart was to bring my departed brother together with his wife and their 3 children who he'd left behind when he died suddenly in 2008 of bronchopneumonia and general sepsis, which we didn't know he had. So it was all very sudden and shocking and everything else. So that's how it started, really. And I've been going from book to book since then.
What a faith journey. I'm so grateful for your testimony of faith. I myself am also familiar with the charismatic movement, and my husband and I have both been affected by it. It has affected our faith when we first really became more devoted to our faith. So I do thank you for sharing that and how the Holy Spirit is working in your life. And we have a lot more to talk about because there's going to be a second half of this program where Tammy's going to speak about the book, The Road to Joseph, and how you can get the book and how the idea for the book came about. So we are going to take a very short commercial break. We will be back in just a minute or two. Be right back. Hello, this is Anne DeSantis. I'm an author and speaker with the Catholic Speakers Organization. To learn about my work and ministry or to book an event, visit the speaking events page at annedesantis.com. Thank you. We are back again after that very short commercial break. And now we are going to talk about the books. Again, the book is called The Road to Joseph. It's very appropriate for children. Tell us, first of all, how did the idea for the book come about, and what age group would you say it's for? Or anything else you want to share too?
So all my books, they're picture books. So, and here's my copy. So they're really for the age of 3 to 7. But I think you can go a bit younger because there's lots of pictures in here. So even younger children of 2 might just be, enthralled by the pictures. Or you can go a little bit older as well. It just depends really on the child's development and what they're drawn to. So where did I get this idea from? So all my 3 books, I have 3 books out at the moment, and they're all on Amazon. That's where you can find it, at an Amazon near you. And each book has a memory that I have of my brother who died suddenly. So in this book, the memory that I have of him is when he was at school doing a school play. And because of where I was sat in the audience, I was able to see my brother just before he was going to run down an aisle area and pretend to be a Sri Lankan, because we're Sri Lankan, a Sri Lankan bowler, and bowl a cricket ball. And I saw his face just because he was very close to me, and I saw the fear that he had on his face. I'd never, ever seen that before, but he seemed to manage to get himself together when it came to it, and he did what he was meant to do as part of their play. And it was, and I've never seen him look that fearful before, after either. I think he must have been about, perhaps, what age? He might have been about 8 or something like that. So that's what it really struck me, and I've never been able to forget that memory because it was so vivid, and because that's the only time I've ever seen him express that fearful emotion. So I wanted to use that because I've used in all my books a striking memory, and I wasn't sure how I would put it together really. And I wanted to do something around Christmas. So I thought, well, something that all children will be familiar with, I would think, is a nativity story in schools. So I thought, well, I could have Chris being part of the nativity story, and at some point he'd have to feel some fear, but then overcome it. So that's how I came up with the story, really. And I got Chris also to want to have to desire to be Joseph in the nativity, and go for the audition, and then he doesn't get the audition and he's very upset. But that night he has a dream, and he's in heaven's throne room, no less. And he's sitting on God the Father's lap. And God the Father says to him, "Chris, will you believe me if I tell you you will be Joseph, even if you're on crutches now?" And he says, "Well, you're God. You can't tell a lie. I do believe you." So that's what happens really. But then things still go downhill for poor Chris. He goes to school, and actually I've missed a little bit out. What happens next? Oh dear. Anyway, let's just go back a bit. Before the dream, Chris has an accident and ends up on crutches. Then he has the dream. That's right. Then he goes to school the next day. And the teacher says to him, well, we're really worried about you being on crutches and being in the nativity as a shepherd, because that's what he was cast as when he didn't get to be Joseph. I think you maybe need to be something that's very still, a cow in Jesus's manger. In the stable. So Chris is devastated. So he doesn't want to be a cow. He didn't want to be a shepherd either. He just wants to be Joseph. So, but he had already by this point had the dream that that says you're going to be Joseph. And then there's another opportunity once he gets better after 2 weeks and he's off the crutches. The Joseph has chicken pox. So there's another audition that's set up, and he has a go with that. But he bashes into a boy on the way to the audition. He's holding a beaker of water, and it splashes on his chest. And it's because it's Christmas and it's cold and everything. All he can do is feel horrible cold water and trickling down his chest. So he feels he's not in a good frame of mind really to do the audition, and because of that, he doesn't get that either. And he's sort of saying this to his best friend Shani in school the next day, and he's saying, I should have got that role, God the Father said I would be. And Shani, of course, is really surprised and says to him, God the Father said you'd be Joseph? Well, if he said so, then you will be. I believe in your dream, Chris. So that helps Chris. It softens things a little bit. But we get right up to the night of the nativity play. The curtains are going to go up in 2 minutes. Chris is still in his cow outfit. And then it all happens, because his teacher, Miss Turtleneck, comes up to him and says, Chris, Joseph's got really bad stage fright, and we know that you know all the lines. Would you like to swap with him and be Joseph instead? And that is what happens. And he does get to be Joseph right at the last minute.
Wow. It's such a beautiful story. It really is. And I have to say, the one thing I do notice, which is so prevalent throughout the book, is the illustrations go so well with the story. And your illustrator is Kimberly Merritt.
Yes.
Tell us how you met Kimberly and how did that all come to be? Because I'll tell you, you work so well together.
Oh, thank you. So what happened was I found that I didn't have a publisher and I didn't have an illustrator. The ones that I had started off with, things just didn't work out. And I thought, well, I'll have to self-publish them. What else can I do? And I thought, well, I need an illustrator. So I was just on Facebook and I just typed in Christian illustrator. And it took me to a page with Christian illustrators. And Kimberly was one of them. And out of, I think I tried 3 or 4. She was, the best. I love the way that she illustrates, because when she draws people, it's halfway between a cartoon and fine art. So that suited me down to the ground. I really like the way that she does, and people and children, and that she can show expression so well on their faces. And expression of emotion is what I really wanted to be shown, because that's all the story's going to be about, really, is how people's emotions are affected by the things that happen to them in a story. Children are full of emotion. They don't hide anything. They're angry. And if they're really happy, they're happy. You can tell. So I needed somebody to be able to convey that. And I just love also the colors that she uses, really nice, bright colors. And I also use the way, I like the way she uses light as well. In one of my previous books, Lost Until the Light Comes. It's also backwards, sorry. In that book there, she just uses light really nicely. And let me just quickly see if I can, that's the picture there. So that's when Chris just finds his parents again after being lost. But I just love the way that she shows that the light's filtering through the clouds and the trees, and Yes, I just love how she does things, basically. And she's very open to my take on things. So if I've said to her, please, could you do it like this, then she'll do it like that. And if I say, do you think you could tweak that a little bit, she'll just do it. But there are other times when she does it her way and not what I've said. And I was thinking, why does she do it like that? And then I thought, oh yeah, she's the illustrator. She knows what she's talking about.
Yeah. Oh, it's really beautiful. And I noticed that you have another book. Do you have additional books, or are these the two books that you offer?
Oh no! So the very first book that I brought out was called this one, A Prayer from the Heart,
Mm.
and the story behind that is when Chris meets his wife for the first time, but they're all children in this story.
Oh.
And then Lost Until the Light Comes is the second book that came out,
Mm.
and that's when he really did get lost in a woods. And can you believe it was awful? He really did get lost in the woods, and we thankfully we found him within about 15-20 minutes, but it was scary for everybody. And then the third book is the Joseph book, The Road to Joseph.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a perfect gift, and you said it's available on Amazon, so they
Yeah.
can get any of those books obviously on
Yes.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Is it, paperback edition, and then is there a Kindle version too?
Yes, so
Or
it's a paperback edition, and there is a Kindle as well if you prefer that. It's whatever
yes,
you like,
yes.
really.
And may I ask, for people who might be watching this video and thinking,
Mm.
um, what would be the best ways that they could promote, would it be great for, say, libraries or group, um, for school children? What are those ways that you would hope to market the book to bring it to life so that other people can get it in their hands?
Yeah. I think if anybody's watching this and you're interested in helping children grow in their faith,
Yes, there you go.
yes, if you want to pop it, speak to your librarian about it
Mm,
and ask them to get it in, or mention it to a teacher at school and say you've come across this book. It's really impressive, whatever you like
yes.
to say, really. And then, yes, just tell people. I think people are going to be able to make a difference to other people. So teachers could tell, then the whole class would know about it. If you're a librarian, then the whole library and anyone who walks in the door is going to know about it. So if you've got any connections, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Any way that we can do it. Word of mouth is always best. I mean,
Yes,
I look at
I think so.
my audience as friends and followers, so a lot of them are very willing to get the word out. I mean, one thing that they can do is just share this video, right? Share this video on your social media and on an email blast, whatever you could do to spread the word for Tammy for this beautiful book, The Road to Joseph. Tell us, is there anything else new going on in your ministry? We'd love to hear as we're sort of headed toward the end of the program. Anything that you'd like to share?
Well, over the next year, I'm going to just take a year out from writing new stories, and I'm going to try and get my books into as many Catholic bookshops as I can around England. It's only in English, but if you're from any other country, you might be watching this, like Australia or another English-speaking country, and you'd be willing to promote it, then please let somebody in a Catholic bookshop know about it. But that's what I'm going to be doing for the next year, I think. And then I'll start again writing the other 3 books that I have in mind to finish off the series, and then just see what God wants me to do then. I don't know what he's going to ask me to do. I can only imagine I'll be maybe doing these books until I'm 90. I don't know.
Yes, well, that would be a gift to everyone because you're certainly a very, very good writer. I'm going to show the book one more time for everyone. The Road to Joseph by Tammy Fernando. And please do check out those other 2 books that she mentioned. Those titles again, just so that they can
So it's A Prayer from the
check it out.
Heart and Lost Until the Light Comes.
Very good. If they would just search you on Amazon, I'm sure that those other
Yeah,
books will also pop
yeah,
up.
yes.
So, what would be your final words before we end the program?
My final word would be just that books are really powerful and important for young children. And next to the Bible, I think there'd be the next best thing, apart from sacraments, of course, to help your child imagination develop in a godly way and just keep them on the right road.
That's right. Beautifully said. I happen to be a grandmother now. I have one grandchild, just a baby at this point, but I am
Oh,
so excited to read this book to my granddaughter. She's just 6 months old right now, but time flies, right?
yeah.
So it's a great book for any season, for any gift for birthday or any holidays. So, Tammy, thank you so much for joining me on this program.
Oh, thank you for having me, Anne, and just for chatting with me and helping me feel relaxed and everything throughout the whole thing.
Oh, 100%. And we hope to have you back again on the program. And to everyone who's watching, would you subscribe to the Anne DeSantis YouTube channel? This podcast airs the first and third Friday of every month at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We have lots of other episodes that you can watch on the channel too. We have actually over 160 uh, episodes. So please do check it out. Tammy, thank you so much again.
Oh, thank you again. God
God bless
bless.
everyone. We'll see you next time.